The chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wider than 1,000 stadiums. Its walls were alive with crystal veins that glowed like frozen lightning, pulsing faintly with the presence of so many gathered minds. Hundreds of alien delegates filled the seats, each representing their species, their empires, their long and ancient pride. On this day, the meeting had only one subject: the humans. A race barely a few centuries into spaceflight. A race that still scoured its own planet with war, that still used combustion engines, still launched crude rockets into the void. To most of the Council, humanity was little more than a curiosity, like watching a child play with fire, not knowing it could burn. The High Speaker, a towering insectoid with shimmering wings, raised its thin arms. Order! We gather to decide what shall be done with Earth. Some here believe they may prove troublesome. That single word triggered laughter across the hall. The delegates hissed, chatted, growled, and clicked in amusement. Troublesome? Humans? General Taka of the Valor stood. He was a broad creature of scales and iron-like bone, a warrior who had commanded fleets for centuries. His mouth curved into a cruel grin as he summoned a hologram. In the air above the chamber, images flickered. Human tanks rolling across dusty fields, human jets releasing missiles, soldiers firing rifles that spat metal bullets. Primitive explosions rippled through the holograms. Behold, Taka thundered. These are their weapons. Ballistic metal. Chemical fire. Their ships carry sticks of metal they call missiles. Their armies ride in steel boxes that crawl like insects. This is the strength of Earth. The council erupted with laughter. Some delegates pounded their claws against the seats. Others hissed words of mockery. A species of cavemen, throwing rocks at the stars. They dare call themselves warriors. Even the High Speaker, usually stoic, allowed a small ripple of amusement to pass through its voice. But not everyone laughed. Near the lower end of the chamber, an alien sat in silence. His name was Serac of the Heshtar, a species known more for scholars than warriors. Serac had spent decades studying the humans, not just their machines, but their history, their culture, the strange way they fought wars. He watched the holograms with narrowed eyes, and when the laughter peaked, he rose slowly. Do not mistake appearance for weakness, Serac said, his voice calm but sharp. The laughter faded slightly, more in surprise than respect. Few ever interrupted Taka's displays. Serac continued. Yes, their weapons are crude. Yes, they use metal instead of plasma, fire instead of antimatter. But you forget one thing. These weapons were not built for display. They were built for survival. Taka sneered. Survival. They fight like savages. They cannot stand against the energy shields of our fleets. A human bullet cannot pierce a single layer of armor plating. Serac's eyes, dark and steady, did not waver. Perhaps. But ask yourselves this. How many wars has each of your species fought in the last 1,000 years? 1? 2? A border dispute here. A rebellion there. The humans? They have fought hundreds. Every generation. Every continent. They make war as easily as they breathe. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some were irritated. Some thoughtful. Serac pressed on. These tanks, these rifles, these rockets, they are not toys. They are the product of endless blood, endless trial, endless refinement. And when humans fight, they do not stop. They adapt. They sacrifice. They win. The High Speaker tilted its long head. You speak as though you admire them. I do not admire, Serac replied. I respect, and I fear, because when I look at humanity, I do not see weakness. I see something we have forgotten, the will to fight with everything, even when the odds are hopeless. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. The laughter had died. The images of human weapons still glowed in the air, but now they seemed different. Not ridiculous, not weak, just strange, dangerous in a way no one fully understood. But then Taka barked a harsh laugh, breaking the tension. Enough of this. You would have us believe these barbarians are a threat? No, let us prove it. Let us show them their place. The general's scales shimmered as he turned to the council. I propose a demonstration. A controlled battle. We shall face humanity in open combat, not with our full strength, but enough to crush their pride. Let them bring their crude weapons. We will bring our fleets, and the galaxy will see the truth. A chorus of approval swept the chamber. Species after species agreed. The idea was too tempting, a spectacle, a lesson, a way to put the humans back in their place before they grew bold. The High Speaker lifted its arms again. Then it is decided. A mock battle. The location shall be the outer edge of the Orion Arm. Humanity will be invited. They will fire their first shot, and then we shall end the game. The council roared with satisfaction. Only Serac remained seated, his head bowed in thought. He whispered to himself, words no one else could hear. Mock battle. You fools. You do not understand. Once humans fire that first shot, nothing will be the same again. The crystals on the walls pulsed faintly, as though the chamber itself could feel the weight of his warning. But the council ignored him. They left in triumph, laughing, mocking, certain of their victory. Far across the stars, on a small blue planet, humanity would soon receive the invitation. They would soon be tested. And in that test, the galaxy's laughter would fall silent. The message arrived without warning. Across Earth's networks, every satellite, every military channel, every government line flickered at once. Screens turned black. Then a single symbol appeared, an alien crest glowing silver against the void. In command bunkers and presidential halls, in military bases and hidden research stations, humans froze as the signal unfolded. A voice spoke, not in any human tongue, but translated perfectly into every language at once. It was calm, smooth, and full of superiority. People of Earth, you are summoned by the Galactic Council. Your weapons are weak, your fleets are crude, yet you seek to join the stars. We will test you in open combat. You will bring your ships, your armies, your strength. We will bring ours. The battle shall take place at the edge of the Orion Arm. Consider it a lesson. Consider it a gift. Prove your worth, if you can. The signal ended. Every screen went dark again. Silence swept across the planet. And then, chaos erupted. In Washington, the U.S. president demanded answers. In Moscow, generals pounded their fists on tables. In Beijing, party leaders argued in sharp tones. The United Nations Emergency Council was summoned within hours. Some wanted to refuse. They are mocking us, shouted one delegate. We will walk into humiliation. Imagine the entire galaxy watching us fail. Others disagreed. If we refuse, said another, the galaxy will think we are cowards. If we accept and lose, at least we fought. The debate grew louder, angrier. Voices overlapped. Fists slammed desks. And yet, far from the arguing halls, in hidden bases, the military minds of Earth were already preparing. Admiral Hayes of the Terran Defense Command stared at the replay of the alien message. His jaw was tight, his eyes cold. Around him, officers shifted nervously, waiting for his decision. They expect us to play their game, Hayes said finally. They expect us to bring our old toys, line them up, and lose. They think we're children. An officer hesitated. So, are we not? The Admiral's eyes flashed. No, we are survivors. That's what they don't understand. He leaned over the table, pointing to the star map where the battle would take place. We will accept, but we will not play fair. We never do. On Earth, preparations began in secret. Old missile silos were reopened. Railgun prototypes, abandoned in warehouses, were tested again. Nuclear warheads were pulled from storage, polished, rearmed. Engineers worked around the clock, upgrading engines, shielding, and tracking systems. To the public, governments told only half-truths. We have been challenged. We will represent Earth. But the true scope of preparations remained hidden. In space yards above the moon, ships were welded together. Some were refitted cargo haulers, armored with steel plates. Others were warships designed in panic after first contact. None looked graceful. They were ugly, blocky, full of sharp edges and heavy guns. When alien scouts passed by the system, they laughed at the sight. Earth ships are coffins with engines, they joked. The humans will die inside them. But still, the humans built. Inside a small underground lab, Dr. Elena Ruiz, a physicist, worked with her team on guidance systems. She looked at the alien recordings and shook her head. They have energy shields, yes, but their arrogance blinds them. Our weapons are slower, but we can make them smarter. Let's give them something they won't expect. Her assistants worked in silence. Every line of code, every calculation, every adjustment carried weight. If they failed, Earth would fall. Back at the United Nations, the debate dragged on. Fear filled the chamber. Some leaders still wanted to reject the challenge. What if we are annihilated? Asked the representative from a small nation. What if they do not stop at mock battles? Admiral Hayes, summoned to address the council, stood tall in his dark uniform. His words were simple, steady, and hard as stone. They will not stop, he said. That is the truth. Whether we fight now or later, the galaxy will test us again. If we bow today, we will bow forever. But if we fight, if we show them that humanity does not break, we change everything. The chamber went quiet. One by one, the leaders nodded. The vote was taken. Unanimous. Earth would fight. As the fleets prepared, rumors spread among the people. Whispers of alien warships larger than mountains, of plasma cannons that melted steel in seconds. Fear filled cities. But alongside fear, something else stirred: pride. On streets and in homes, people raised old flags. Soldiers volunteered in record numbers. Engineers worked without sleep. Even nations long divided shared blueprints, shared resources, shared dreams of survival. For the first time in history, humanity truly united. At last, the day came. The first human fleet assembled in orbit. From the ground, people looked up and saw streaks of light cutting through the sky. Ships rising one after another, fire trailing behind them. They were not beautiful, they were not sleek, but they were ours. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, staring at the stars. His officers waited for his word. Transmit message to the Galactic Council, he ordered. Earth accepts your invitation. We will meet you in battle. A murmur spread across the bridge. Some smiled. Some clenched their fists. All felt the weight of what was coming. Hayes turned to the crew. His voice carried across the ship, broadcast to every vessel in the fleet. They laugh at us. They mock our weapons. They believe we are weak. Tomorrow, we show them the truth. Tomorrow, humanity steps into the fire, and we do not step back. Outside, the fleet burned toward the stars. Far away, in the living crystal chamber of the Galactic Council, alien generals watched the human response and laughed again. But one alien did not laugh. Serac of the Heshtar lowered his eyes, whispering to himself, "They are coming, and when they arrive, the galaxy will never be the same." The chosen battlefield lay at the edge of the Orion Arm, a dead star system with no living worlds. A dim, cold sun burned weakly at its center, its planets nothing more than frozen rocks. The Galactic Council had picked it carefully, far from trade routes, far from colonies, a place where destruction would harm nothing. For the aliens, it was perfect. For the humans, it was a grave waiting to be dug. The first to arrive were the alien fleets. One by one, their ships slid out of warp. Sleek, polished, gleaming like blades of light, they spread across the system in careful formation. Their hulls shimmered with protective shields. Energy weapons glowed faintly along their sides, humming with restrained power. From orbit of the barren planet, the fleet looked endless. Hundreds of warships, carriers, cruisers, all drawn from the proudest empires of the Council. On the flagship of the Valor, General Taka stood at the command deck, his scales reflecting the glow of battle readiness. He looked at the star field with satisfaction. "This will be quick," he growled. "Let the humans see true war before they are erased." His crew laughed. Their voices were cold, certain, confident. Hours later, new lights appeared on the edge of the system. The humans had arrived. The fleet was small, barely 50 ships. They looked nothing like the graceful alien vessels. Human ships were blocky, armored with rough steel plating, engines burning hot and angry. Some still bore the shape of old cargo haulers or refitted mining vessels. Their guns jutted out like jagged teeth. On alien sensors, they looked primitive, ugly, weak. The laughter began immediately across alien channels. Scrap metal. Flying coffins. Do they think these toys will save them? General Tacker's voice boomed across the comms. Humans, we welcome you to your first and last battle. Fire your primitive weapons. Let us end this game quickly. On the human flagship Resolute, Admiral Hayes stood calm as stone. His bridge crew exchanged nervous glances, but their admiral's voice never wavered. Transmit this, Hayes ordered. A message went out across the system, to every alien ship listening. Earth accepts your challenge. You wanted a demonstration. You'll have one. No more words followed. Silence filled the void. The fleets positioned themselves. The aliens took the high orbit above the barren planet, their massive formation glowing like a constellation of fire. The humans spread out in a loose line, their ships bristling with missiles and railguns. Alien analysts laughed at the human formation. Untrained, disorganized. They don't even know how to hold a battle line. But on the human bridge, Hayes murmured quietly to his officers. They'll see soon enough. The countdown began. The council had declared that the humans would fire the first shot. A show of fairness, they claimed. In truth, it was meant as mockery. Let the humans waste their best weapon. It would only prove how powerless they were. On the alien decks, commanders relaxed. Some even opened their comms to taunt the humans directly. Fire your bullets, Earth. Let us see your fireworks. We will not even bother raising shields. Prove us wrong, if you can. Inside the Resolute, the tension was unbearable. The crew sat stiff, eyes locked on their consoles. Every heartbeat felt louder than the hum of the engines. Admiral Hayes raised a hand. Target locked. Locked, sir. Then let history remember this moment. His hand fell. Fire. A missile launched from the Resolute. It was not fast, not bright, just a long, slender piece of metal, burning across the void on a trail of fire. On alien sensors, it looked pathetic, a relic of the past. The laughter came again, louder this time. This is their power. A child's rocket. We will not even waste energy shooting it down. The missile closed the distance. Alien gunners watched it lazily, amused at its slow crawl through the void. Then it struck. The warhead split open, releasing hundreds of tungsten rods, dense, sharp, traveling at terrifying speed. They sliced through space like invisible knives, bypassing the shimmering alien shields as though they were not even there. The alien flagship shook. For a moment, the crew didn't understand. Then alarms screamed. Hull breaches spread across decks. Systems shut down. Fire ripped through the corridors. And then, silence. The great ship of the Valor exploded in a flash of light, scattering debris across the frozen planet below. One missile, one primitive human weapon, and an alien flagship was gone. The alien laughter died instantly. The Council fleets stared at their sensors in disbelief. How? The shields. Impossible. General Tacker's fleet was in chaos. His voice, once so full of pride, was replaced with rage and panic. Return fire. Destroy them. But even as orders flew, the Council knew the truth. The humans had drawn first blood. On the Resolute, Admiral Hayes stood without a smile, without a cheer. His voice was steady as he gave the next command. Reload. Fire again. In the living crystal chamber of the Galactic Council, far across the stars, silence filled the air as the news arrived. Delegates stayed at the reports. A human missile had destroyed one of their proudest warships. The chamber, once filled with laughter, now felt cold. Serac of the Heshtar closed his eyes. He had known this would happen. He whispered the words he had spoken before, but now they carried the weight of proof. Never underestimate a species that fights to survive. The first alien flagship died in silence. No sound could carry through the void, but the explosion lit the Dead Star system like a second sun. Fragments of burning metal scattered across the frozen planet below, tumbling in arcs of fire before fading into darkness. On the bridges of the Galactic Council fleets, crews stared in disbelief. It was not possible. A single human missile had pierced their shields. A single strike had shattered one of their proudest warships. The laughter was gone. In its place came panic. General Tacker's image blazed across the alien comms. His scaled face twisted in fury. Do not stand there staring. Return fire. Annihilate them. Energy beams erupted from alien warships, bright lances of plasma and antimatter slicing across the void. Dozens of human ships became targets at once. On the Resolute, alarm screamed. A wall of plasma seared past their flank, burning close enough to shake the ship. Another beam tore into one of the smaller human destroyers, splitting it in half. The wreck spun silently into the darkness. Admiral Hayes did not flinch. His eyes stayed locked on the battle display, even as red alerts filled the screens. They'll try to overwhelm us quickly. Stay disciplined. Fire in sequence. Railguns thundered from human ships. Massive slugs of metal launched at near-relativistic speed. They made no glow, no heat signature, just silent streaks of destruction. Alien shields, built to absorb energy weapons, failed against the sheer kinetic impact. A slug tore through a cruiser, punching a hole the size of a tower through its core. Another shredded a Carey's hangar, spilling fighters into the void before detonating fuel lines. Human missiles followed, swarming like angry hornets. Some were shot down, but others slipped through, their primitive guidance twisted by last-second maneuvers. Explosions dotted the alien formation, one after another. The Council fleets had come to mock. Now they bled. On the alien bridge, panic spread. Their weapons bypass shields. They fight without pattern. We cannot predict their strikes. Our formations are breaking. Tacker slammed his claws against the command table. Hold the line. They cannot win. They are primitives. But even as he shouted, another human railgun slug ripped into his flank, shredding 3 escort ships in seconds. Inside the Resolute, tension was unbearable. Every second felt like a lifetime. Sparks rained from the ceiling as plasma grazed their hull. But still, the crew fought with grim focus. Missile reload complete. Railguns charged. Target lock confirmed. Admiral Hayes nodded once. Fire. The Resolute shuddered as its weapons unleashed another storm. Across the human fleet, other ships fired in sequence, creating a constant rhythm of destruction. Slow, heavy, relentless. Not elegant, not graceful, but effective. Alien commanders struggled to adapt. Their fleets had trained for wars against enemies like themselves, who relied on energy, shields, and elegant maneuvers. But the humans fought differently. Their weapons were brutal, ugly, and devastating. A plasma beam might miss. A missile might be intercepted. But a 10-ton slug of solid tungsten? Nothing could stop it. For every human ship destroyed, 3 alien vessels fell. Far away, the battle streamed live into the crystal halls of the Galactic Council. Delegates watched in stunned silence. The arrogance that had filled the chamber hours ago was gone. One delegate whispered, "How can this be?" Another hissed, "Their weapons, they should not work." Serac of the Heshtar stood alone, eyes fixed on the hologram. He said nothing, but his thoughts burned. This was exactly what he had feared. Back in the Orion battlefield, the aliens tried one last tactic. They tightened their formations, pulling into a defensive sphere, plasma cannons firing outward in every direction. Tacker roared, "Crush them in a storm of fire." The void lit up with blinding beams. Human ships exploded one after another, caught in the sudden barrage. On the Resolute, Hayes clenched his jaw as 5 red markers blinked out. 5 ships gone in seconds. The alien fleet cheered. Their confidence surged. Perhaps the humans had shown one lucky trick, but now they would be finished. But Hayes was waiting for this. Now, he ordered quietly. Human ships scattered apart. Instead of staying in tight lines, they broke into smaller groups, each maneuvering unpredictably. Some dove close to the planet, using its gravity to slingshot. Others weaved between debris fields from destroyed ships. The alien beams, powerful but slow to aim, began to miss more and more. From these strange angles, human railguns opened fire again. Missiles streaked out in clouds, hammering the alien sphere until its formation cracked. Alien shields flickered, then collapsed. Another carrier went down, then a battleship, then 2 more cruisers. On Taka's bridge, chaos turned to despair. Officers screamed reports, alarms howled, and flames licked across the command deck. Taka's voice broke with fury. Impossible. This cannot be happening. But it was happening. Humanity was winning. On the Resolute, Admiral Hayes watched the destruction unfold. His face remained calm, but deep inside, even he felt the weight of history pressing on this moment. They thought we were weak, he said softly. Let them learn what Earth does when cornered. Another volley of railgun fire erupted. Another alien ship broke apart in flames. At the council chamber, silence still ruled. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy had seen something it did not understand. A young race, armed with primitive weapons, was tearing apart the pride of the elder fleets. Serac whispered into the quiet, his voice low but clear. The first shot has been fired, and nothing will ever be the same again. The void burned with wreckage. Alien cruisers tumbled in silence, their proud hulls torn apart by tungsten slugs. Explosions flared like dying stars. A battlefield that had once promised a quick alien victory now looked like a graveyard of shattered fleets. And still, the humans pressed forward. On the Resolute, Admiral Hayes stood tall, his face lit by the glow of battle reports streaming across the display. He saw the wrecks of human ships too, each one a wound carved deep into his heart. But for every ship Earth lost, 3 alien vessels fell. His voice carried across the bridge, steady as iron. Keep the pressure. No pauses. Make them drown in fire. The humans obeyed. Railguns thundered again, launching slugs at speeds that cracked physics. Missiles swarmed out like angry bees, splitting into clusters, striking from different angles. Even when aliens intercepted some, others slipped through gaps, detonating deep inside their formations. The aliens had shields. The humans had speed, brute force, and endless creativity. On the alien side, chaos ruled. General Taka slammed his claws against the console, fury shaking his scaled frame. Close ranks. Protect the flagships. But it was no use. His orders were lost in the storm. Human tactics shifted too quickly. Groups of ships broke away, circling like wolves around prey. They did not fight in rigid lines like the Council's fleets. They fought dirty, unpredictable, wild. Alien officers shouted in fear. They are surrounding us. Our cannons cannot track them all. Shields are collapsing. A human destroyer, badly damaged and burning, hurled itself directly at a massive alien carrier. The alien guns cut it apart, shredding its hull piece by piece. But the destroyer kept going, engines blazing until the very last second. The collision split the carrier in two. Both ships died together in a silent flash. Across the human fleet, the crew of the Resolute watched the explosion with grim faces. They did not cheer. They only fought harder. From orbit, the barren planet below became littered with shadows of the battle. Debris rained down in streaks of fire. Alien wrecks crashed into its frozen plains. Human fragments burned through its thin atmosphere. Above, the fight raged on, a storm of light and metal. On the Resolute, Hayes received the latest report. Admiral, alien casualties, more than 50 ships destroyed, hundreds crippled. And ours? Hayes asked. 17 gone, dozens damaged. The Admiral's jaw tightened. 17 human ships, thousands of lives. But it was a price Earth had known it would pay. A price they had prepared for. He nodded once. Push harder. We break them now, or not at all. Across the battlefield, human strategy unfolded like a knife. Small corvettes darted in close, too fast for alien beams to track, launching torpedoes at weak points. Heavy cruisers fired railguns from long range, their slugs tearing through ships that thought themselves safe. Even refitted cargo haulers proved deadly, hauling nuclear payloads that no alien had imagined would be used in space combat. The aliens had mocked Earth's weapons. Now they faced all of them at once. Inside an alien battleship, panic screamed through the decks. Officers shouted in confusion as a missile swarm broke through defenses. The ship's captain, a veteran of centuries, collapsed into his chair, stunned at how quickly his vessel was being torn apart. "They are primitives," he whispered to himself as alarms shrieked. Primitives. His ship disintegrated in a silent fireball before he finished the word. At the Galactic Council chamber, the silence grew heavier. Delegates watched their fleets crumble. Some hissed in outrage. Others muttered in disbelief. "They are not fighting a war," one delegate whispered. "They are surviving." Serac of the Heshtar stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the holograms of the battle. In the glow of burning ships, he saw what no one else dared admit. "This is not their strength at full," he murmured. "This is only the beginning." Back in the Orion battlefield, the tide became unstoppable. Alien formations broke. Ships fled in every direction. Plasma beams fired wildly into the void, desperate to hit anything. Human ships pursued, relentless, striking down every retreating vessel within reach. A railgun slug punched straight through another flagship. A missile storm overwhelmed the destroyer group. One by one, alien icons vanished from Hayes' tactical screen. On the Resolute, the bridge fell silent, almost reverent, as the scale of the victory became clear. But then, the sensors blared with new alarms. A massive energy surge lit up the edge of the system. A weapon unlike anything the humans had yet seen began to charge, its glow brighter than the dying star. The aliens had unleashed something else. Something larger. Something meant to end this battle in one strike. On the alien command ship, General Taka bared his teeth, his fury twisting into a cruel smile. "You fight well, humans," he hissed. "But let us see you survive the wrath of a star." The alien superweapon roared to life. On the Resolute, every console turned red. Officers shouted, fear breaking through their voices. "Admiral, energy spike. Power beyond anything we've faced. They're going to fire." Hay stood still, his eyes cold. He understood in a single heartbeat what was coming. The storm the humans had unleashed might soon be swallowed by a greater fire. The void trembled. At the edge of the Orion system, a colossal alien structure unfolded from its carrier ships. It was not sleek like their war cruisers, nor graceful like their frigates. It was monstrous, a cannon the size of a small moon, its barrel glowing with a light stolen from a captive star. The Galactic Council had unleashed their ace. On the Resolute, alarms screamed as sensors picked up the surge. Red light bathed the bridge. "Admiral," cried the tactical officer, "the energy output, it's beyond anything we've ever recorded. They've weaponized a star." Hayes' jaw tightened. He stared at the giant cannon on the display. He knew what it meant. A weapon like that could erase entire fleets in a single shot. And they were its target. General Taka's face filled alien comms across the battlefield. His scales shimmered in the glow of the weapon charging behind him. His voice was sharp with triumph. "You fought well, humans. Too well. But this battle ends now. No primitive fleet can stand against the power of a sun." The alien fleets, battered and bleeding, cheered weakly. Hope had returned. Salvation burned behind them in the form of a weapon no one believed could be resisted. Taka roared the final order. "Fire!" The star cannon unleashed its fury. A beam of energy, brighter than any sun, cut through the void. It tore across the battlefield like the finger of a god, vaporizing debris, ripping through anything in its path. 3 human ships were caught in the strike. They disintegrated instantly, swallowed by fire, erased so completely that not even wreckage remained. The shockwave hammered others, frying systems, blinding sensors. On the Resolute, the bridge crew braced as the blast grazed their shields. Panels burst. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Smoke filled the air. Direct hit on the Artemis, Ironclad, and Vanguard. They are gone. 7 others damaged. Shields down to 40%. The fleet staggered. Fear rippled through the humans. For a moment, it seemed the tide had turned. On the alien flagship, Taka threw his arms wide. His laughter echoed through the comms. "Behold the difference between savages and civilizations. Crawl back to your dirt world, if you survive." Alien fleets rallied. They surged forward, plasma cannons blazing, hoping to crush what remained of Earth's ships. For the first time in the battle, human resolve wavered. Admiral Hayes saw it in the faces around him, fear creeping into the eyes of officers, dread settling on every breath. If that cannon fired again, they might all be lost. He stood firm, his voice cutting through the chaos. No, not yet. Bring out the hidden card. The order rippled across the fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, from the shadows of the system, dark shapes emerged. Ships no alien sensor had detected. Vessels hidden with stealth technology developed in secret. Their hulls coated with materials that swallowed light and signals alike. Dozens of them. They moved silently, cold and deadly, engines burning just enough to glide into attack range. Alien commanders gasped as new signatures suddenly appeared all around them. Where did these ships come from? Impossible. They weren't on our scans. Taka's eyes widened in rage. Tricks. More human tricks. The hidden fleet struck. From their launch bays came weapons the aliens had mocked most of all, nuclear warheads. Bright, ugly, ancient to the galaxy's standards, but devastating. Hundreds of them streaked across the void, weaving through alien defenses. Energy shields flickered, trying to resist. Some absorbed the hits, but others cracked. The first detonation lit the battlefield like a second star. Then another, and another. Shockwaves rippled, frying alien systems, blinding sensors, tearing through hulls. One by one, alien ships collapsed under the fury of weapons they had laughed at. And then the hidden fleet targeted the star cannon. Nuclear warheads hammered its shields. Railgun slugs from stealth cruisers punched into its supports. Missiles swarmed like hornets at its heart. The cannon's glow flickered. Its system screamed under the assault. Alien crews tried desperately to stabilize it, pouring energy into failing shields. Taka shouted in fury. Hold the line. Fire again. But the weapon never fired a second time. It exploded. The light of its death washed across the battlefield, brighter than its first shot. Alien ships caught too close were torn apart instantly. Others drifted helplessly, systems fried by the shockwave. The weapon meant to end humanity had destroyed itself instead. On the Resolute, the crew stayed in awe as the blast faded. The alien superweapon was gone. Human ships, battered but alive, pushed forward again. Admiral Hayes' voice was steady, iron-hard. They thought we had shown everything. They thought wrong. Now finish this. The hidden fleet joined the main force. Together, the humans unleashed their fury. Railguns tore apart survivors. Missiles punched through wrecks. Nuclear fire lit the void again and again. The once proud fleets of the Council broke completely. Some tried to flee. Others surrendered. Many simply died. In the crystal halls of the Galactic Council, silence ruled. Delegates stayed at the holograms in disbelief as their fleets burned. One elder whispered, "They hid weapons from us. They tricked us. They prepared." Serac of the Heshtar spoke at last, his voice calm but heavy. "They survived. That is all humanity has ever done. And that is why they will rise." Back at the battlefield, Admiral Hayes watched as alien ships scattered in retreat. The humans stood blooded but unbroken. He knew the message had been sent. A message written not in words, but in fire. Earth was no longer the laughingstock of the galaxy. Earth was a threat. The battlefield was quiet at last. Debris drifted like broken bones across the void. Alien wrecks burned slowly, their shattered hulls reflecting the faint light of distant stars. Where once the Council's fleets had stretched in proud formation, now only scattered survivors remained. And at the center of it all, battered but still standing, floated the human fleet. On the Resolute, Admiral Hayes stood tall on the bridge. His uniform was torn, his face lined with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with steel. Around him, his crew moved slowly, bandaging wounds, repairing systems, mourning the fallen. 17 ships gone, thousands of lives lost. But humanity was still there, still fighting, still unbroken. Hayes knew the galaxy was watching. And that was the point. He ordered the comms officer, "Open a wideband channel. All frequencies. All races." The officer hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, sir." Across the galaxy, Screens flickered to life. In the crystal halls of the council, in the markets of distant colonies, in the war rooms of alien empires, everyone saw the same image. Admiral Hayes, standing on the bridge of a scarred but living ship, wreckage drifting behind him like a crown of fire. His voice carried across the stars. You mocked us. You called us primitives. You said our weapons were toys, our soldiers nothing but children holding sticks. You thought we would kneel when you showed us the power of your empires. But we are humanity. We do not kneel. We survive. And when survival demands it, we fight with everything we have. Stones, sticks, fire, iron, or stars themselves. We will fight until nothing is left but ashes, and still we will rise again. He paused, letting the words sink in. Behind him, the battered crew stood at attention, living proof of his words. Hayes continued, his tone lower, sharper. You unleashed your greatest weapon today. You thought it would erase us. Instead, it lies broken among your dead ships. Learn this lesson, Council, and never forget it. Mock us if you wish, but never provoke us again. For humanity does not forgive easily, and we do not forget. Across the galaxy, the silence was heavy. Alien leaders stayed at their screens, shaken. Soldiers in distant barracks sat frozen. Even civilians who had never feared humans before now felt a chill. The words were not a boast. They were a warning. In the council chamber, arguments erupted. They must be destroyed before they grow stronger. One delegate shouted. No, another hissed. You saw what they did. We cannot risk open war again. They are dangerous. They are survivors. The chamber split into chaos, voices clashing like blades. But Serac of the Heshtar remained quiet. At last, he rose, his shadow stretching long across the crystal floor. They have claimed their place, he said. Not by permission, not by request, by survival, by fire. No one dared argue. Back in the Orion system, Hayes ended his transmission. He stood silently for a long moment, gazing at the wrecks. He knew the cost of this victory. Humanity had survived, but barely. The Council would think twice before mocking them again, but Earth's enemies would now be many. And yet, deep in his heart, Hayes felt something else stirring. Pride. The galaxy had seen humanity's strength. For the first time, Earth was no longer ignored, no longer dismissed. They had stepped onto the galactic stage, not as prey, but as equals, perhaps even as threats. On Earth, when the transmission reached home, billions watched in silence. Families of fallen soldiers wept. Children stared wide-eyed at the sight of human ships standing among wreckage. Then, slowly, across continents and oceans, a single truth spread through every heart. Humanity was no longer alone, and they were no longer afraid. In the quiet of space, Hayes spoke softly to his crew. We've shown them who we are, but this is only the beginning. The galaxy will come again. They always do, but when they come, we'll be ready. The crew stood taller at his words. Their wounds hurt less. Their fear dimmed, because they believed. And somewhere, in the ruins of the Council fleet, a single alien survivor whispered in awe. They thought the first shot would prove humanity's weakness, but it only showed their strength. The galaxy had mocked humanity. The galaxy had tested humanity. Now, the galaxy feared humanity, and that fear would never fade.